Hey guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. For this video, I thought it'd be fun to do a Dollar Tree collective haul of some of my favorite supplies I like to pick up from Dollar Tree to use in my junk journals. This has actually been a highly requested video for a while now, and I'm finally sitting down to film this. It was actually supposed to come out yesterday. I was supposed to film it yesterday in place of my Tuesday haul videos, but I was feeling a little bit under the weather, so thank you for being patient with me. Hopefully you won't hear me clearing my throat or coughing. I'll do my best to edit that out. But as you can see here, I have quite a bit of stuff to go over. But before I get started, I briefly want to touch on the fact that yes, this is considered supplies and not junk, even though I'm using these supplies in my junk journals. I did a video I think a couple of years ago explaining what a junk journal is and showing examples of some of the journals I've made. And I talked about how junk journaling has evolved over the years to incorporate supplies and not just junk like original traditional junk journaling. There's some people that consider true junk journaling to be made solely out of things that you would normally toss in the trash, and that's totally fine. It's a matter of personal opinion. I use a combination of junk and supplies in my journals, and I use it for memory keeping, I use it for art journaling, a personal diary, if you will. So a lot of different things go on in my journals. Some people would consider my journals to be mixed media journals, but the point I'm trying to get at is you do what makes you happy. Call your creative journals whatever you like. I call mine junk journals. I do have a junk journal playlist on my channel if you're interested in seeing some tutorials on how to build one or ideas for a journal spread. I have a few videos. You can go check that out if you're interested. But let's go ahead and get started. Grab a drink, get cozy, because I have a feeling this is going to be a longer video. All right, where to begin here? I think I'm gonna go ahead and start off with some stickers. If you guys watch my Dollar Tree hauls, you probably heard me mention quite a bit that, oh, that would look cute in a junk journal when I show different stickers that I haul. But my favorite kind of stickers I like to use have a kind of vintage look to them or botanical. That's just the style that I like. And it was really hard to pick out some of my favorites, but I went through all of my stickers and I just picked out a few. These ones I recently picked up. They all have this vintage look to them. These ones are actually raised, which is typically not something that I use a lot, any sort of puffy stickers, because it will add a lot of bulk to my journals, which I already do when I journal and add papers. But these are just so beautiful and they kind of fit with that vintage look that I'm going for in a lot of my journals. So these I think are excellent for that. And then there's some of these kinds of stickers that you can use to journal on or add labels. I did that in my recent traveler's notebook style journal that I did. I actually have an example for you guys right here. I just made a, I guess, plant journal. So I used some of these little labels to kind of label my different plants in here. So these are great for that. And all of the rub-on transfers from Dollar Tree are excellent for paper crafting or adding some detail to your pages. This one happens to be my very favorite. It kind of has that Tim Holtz look to it. I've used it, I think, a couple of different times, and I need to get more of it, but as you can tell, it just has like this vintage vibe going on. And I'll actually show you an example of how I use these to embellish some pages. But the rub-on transfers are excellent for junk journaling because they don't add any bulk to your pages. So I just think they're absolutely beautiful. And again, this has like that whole botanical vintage theme to it. And this one just has that vintage, I guess, font and style to it. So I definitely think the rub-on transfers are amazing for journaling. And then these ones I thought were really cool because you can add a little scene or journaling spread in your junk journals and then have like this pop out window. I actually did a frame where I had a picture and I put it behind these really beautiful windows. So these are just some of my favorite stickers that I would use in my journals or that I have used. So there's some of those. And then these ones I think would be really beautiful as well to use, again, to make labels or a little journaling spot. So picked up those. And then these are actually stencils. So I think it'd be really beautiful if you wanted to do some like maybe mixed media or like add some texture to your pages. You could use one of these self-adhesive stencils and maybe put some like acrylic gesso or paint or something over it. And I think that would be really beautiful. So that's what I have as far as stickers. Now let me show you guys some things that you might not think to add to your journals, like these tickets. I find these in the party section and I actually coffee dye them. So I'll just take a couple of strips at a time, coffee dye it, and then I can tear off and use these to kind of embellish a page. So I love the tickets. You get a ton of them for $1. And then these little favor boxes from the party section as well are great. You can use them as pockets. I actually think I have an example in this journal of the pocket. I think I used one in here. Let me see. I'm pretty sure I did, just because this had like that jungle. Oh yeah, right here. So I just used it as a pocket in my journal. So that's what I like to do with those little treat boxes. And let me show you guys, I forgot to show you how I used those rub-on transfers to embellish some of my pages. Like this is a rub-on transfer right here from that sticker sheet that I showed you guys. This is a rub-on transfer. So that's how I like to use those. I think it, again, adds a really beautiful touch, vintage look to your journal without adding bulk. Like this, you can't even feel where it's on the page. So that's another part that I embellished. So moving on, these treat bags from Dollar Tree are also amazing to use to sew in. You fold it in half and sew it in and use it as a pocket. Let me see if one of these journals has that as well. I'm pretty sure, yeah. So this one, I just used one of these treat bags and I folded it in half with my signatures. And now I have this pocket that I can put different things in. So that's how I like to use the treat bags, as well as the paper bags from Dollar Tree as well. You can, same concept, you can fold it in half and then bind it into your journal and then cut one end open and you have two pockets to store things in. I also like to use these, cut it up, kind of crinkle it up a little bit and use it as kind of like a page or journal spread. So I like to use those for that. Also, the clasp envelopes from the, I guess, office supply section, same concept, same idea. Cut one end open, fold it. And I do coffee dye a lot of these supplies just because I like that aged, worn, vintage look. So that's what I usually do with those as well. And then the little paper doilies are so good. This is like one of my favorite junk journal supplies. I will also coffee dye these as well. They come in different sizes as well, depending on how big you want it in your journal. I don't know if there's one in here where I can show you an example. I don't put them in all of my journals, but same thing as like the paper bags. I would just fold it in half. And then I could use it as two different journaling spreads. So maybe it's in this one. Maybe I can show you an example in this. Maybe not. Okay, so you guys get the idea, I hope. I recently picked up these file folders. I think these are excellent for your journals. You can do like kind of like a mini journal or maybe like a folio And I can't wait to use this one. I plan on doing like a Zodiac themed junk journal. I have some Zodiac scrapbooking paper that I think would look really cute with this. So those are another excellent option or supply for your junk journals. This quick cover adhesive is kind of like a contact paper, but you can use it in your journal as kind of like a wallpaper or journal spread for the background. So I like to use these a lot for that. Magnetic buttons from the Crafter Square section. If you're trying to make some sort of enclosure that's not visible, you can tuck this behind like an envelope pocket on two sides. They're pretty thin. They won't add too much bulk. They look thick in the packaging, but they are pretty thin. So you could just put one magnet inside of the enclosure that you're trying to do, and then one on the other, and then you have a little way to close it. I've seen this a lot in like mini albums. So those are great for that. I love these wall decals from Dollar Tree to use in my journaling. They're very large, but I'm gonna show you how I used this one to decorate my journal. This was actually one of my very first journals. I just used it to decorate the cover, and it turned out really, really beautiful. This is actually a piece of plastic from a flower bouquet, and I just decorated it that way to kind of go with my theme. But you could also use this on a journal spread or page. You could maybe cut it to where it would be like kind of hanging off the side of the page. So I really love to use these wall decals more than I guess what they're intended for, and use them in my journals. These butterfly die cuts in the Floral Garden section at Dollar Tree are so good. This is one of my favorite items. I have the orange set as well that I've used quite a bit in my journals, but you get a ton of different die cuts in these pack. 33 different butterflies, all different shapes and sizes. These are beautiful to decorate journals with. So love those. And then also in the Teaching Tree section, they come out with these, I guess, die cuts that teachers would use to decorate like their like wall boards. So I like to pick them up because you can use these as journaling cards in your junk journal. This cactus one is just one of my favorites. So I pulled that out to show you guys. These paper packs from the Crafter's Square section are amazing for junk journaling. You get a ton of different scrap pieces of paper in here for only $1, and I like to do collaging a lot in my journals. That's the style that I most frequently do in my junk journals. So there's just a lot of different papers and textures in here that you can use in your journals. So I think this is an absolute amazing find. Now let's get into, I guess, some stationery. Probably one of the best things that Dollar Tree has for all of your journaling needs. I especially love any sort of sticky note. I just recently picked this little sticky note pad up, and it just has like this really beautiful succulent theme in it. I would use this in my junk journal too as a place to journal in, because I like to, again, do a lot of collaging, but I would use this, leave it blank, and then after I'm done making my journal spread, I will go back and journal on this. So I love any sort of sticky notes. These list pads are amazing. I recently picked this one up as well. Again, I would use this as a journaling spot. These, I guess, Trifold stationery sets are amazing as well, because you get a ton of different little notepads or note pieces that you can use, again, to journal in your junk journal, and they'll last a long time. So I found this one, and these just have that botanical plant theme that I love. So I recently, I think, used this one in this, I guess, traveler's notebook style. I think there was a couple pages that I maybe used some of those pieces in. I can't, yeah, like right here, I think is one, but these are amazing for that. This one just has some stripes on it. The notebook paper, or these like legal pads, are amazing as well. They come in a pack of 3. I, again, would coffee dye this before using it in my journal, as well as this sketchbook. I would coffee dye the papers to use in my junk journals. And coffee dyeing is super easy. You just take a pan, fill it up with some coffee, like some old coffee, cold coffee if you have it. Just pour the rest out of whatever you're drinking, and then you can either hang dry the papers after they sit for about 15-20 minutes, or you can dry them in your oven at the lowest setting, I think is like 200 degrees, for 6-7 minutes, and you have dried coffee paper. That's just how I like to do it. And then these index cards from Dollar Tree are amazing as well. Again, I coffee or tea dye these and use them as a spot to journal in, or I will use them to kind of decorate, like this. Here's an example I used for the cover. I just used a coffee dyed index card and kind of use it as a background for this owl die cut. So you can get different colors of the index cards as well at Dollar Tree. I just like the plain white ones. And the card section at Dollar Tree is also another great resource for junk journaling supplies. You can pick up these note cards. They're blank inside. This again has like that botanical vintage look to me, so I would use these, put them in my journal. I would also use the little envelopes they come with as a tuck spot to place things in. And it's just a great spot to journal, or to add a journaling spot to your junk journals. So anything with a blank inside, I would just add this to my journal and then use it as a spot to journal in. And again, I use the envelopes as well in different parts of my journal. And these are a couple of my favorites. I used this owl card in my journal I did here. It's actually coming apart. I need to redo it. But I used this. It was a fall or kind of like Halloween style journal that I made. But I used that little owl card because I thought he looked so cute. And here's what he looks like when I added some Tim Holtz Distressing ink to it. So that's just an idea. And the same concept with the bags. You would just open this up, add it to your signature, and then bind it in with the rest. And I also like to use the envelopes as well. I would just bind it right here. So this would be a page where I could tuck stuff in. Let me see if I have an example in. It's just easier for me to show you guys examples, just in case you're like, what is she talking about? So like right here, I have one of those clasp envelopes. So I just use it as a tuck spot. And it's the same with the envelope. So see how I bound it in here? So this side I can use as a tuck spot. So cards, envelopes, those are great supplies to use in junk journals. Now let me show you some things that I have out of frame. I'm getting quite messy here. Let me actually move some of this stuff over, and I'll probably end up doing a part 2 in the future. There's just so many things that I like to use in my journals. So let's talk about some tassels or embellishments. I like to use all of Dollar Tree's beads to make my journal tassels, and I do have a video on how I do that. Most of these beads are from the Dollar Tree. Even the little cases are from Dollar Tree. So what I'll do is I will make little tassels and add embellishments and beads to them. So right here I just have a little bottle of beads, and I have some pearls on a string. So that is what I like to use all of the little Dollar Tree beads for. And I also want to mention that I have a ton of ribbon that I haul from Dollar Tree as well. This one just happens to be my absolute favorite because it just has that vintage look. But I love to use Dollar Tree's ribbon to create tassels as well. So that is another great junk journaling supply that you can pick up from Dollar Tree, because I know ribbon can be quite expensive at craft supply stores. So beads are something that I love to use. And while we're talking about, I guess, tassels and embellishments, these little mini bottles from Dollar Tree are excellent to add some tassel bling to your journals. These little mini glass bottles with the cork from Crafter Square. Again, I like to use them to add bling to my journals on the little tassels. So these are an amazing find for junk journaling at the Dollar Tree. And then these little sequin packs, I would just use these and fill up one of these bottles. And depending on the theme of my journal or the color theme, I would just kind of match whatever color that is and put it in this little bottle and then attach it to a tassel. So that is what I like to do with those pieces. And then I just want to quickly show you as well, same idea with the sequins. I would use this tube confetti as well to add to those little glass bottles. So that's it, I guess, for like the bling portion. We're actually almost done with this video. Another thing that I use frequently, or that I pick up frequently from the Dollar Tree to use in my journals, are books from the book section. If you're sensitive to altering books in any sort of way, look away. But one of, like, I guess the most common things to use in junk journals is book pages. So right here I have a couple of books that I've used from the Dollar Tree. This book right here I actually used to build this journal. So I used the book board to create the cover, the back and cover, and then I just used a few pieces of chipboard to do the spine. But I use not only the book board, but I will also use the pages in the books and coffee dye them. So right here there is a bunch, in this journal there's a bunch of those pages from this book right here that I used. So right here I have some of those papers, and again I just coffee dyed them to make them look old, but that is probably one of the most common things to pick up at Dollar Tree to use for junk journaling. So I have a page right here as well, book pages. So that's what I like to use the Dollar Tree books for. And right here you can also see that this one has a bunch of holes in it, because what I'll do is I'll also use this when I'm doing my binding, and I will just place my book on top and then use it with my awl to poke the holes for binding. So many different uses for the Dollar Tree books. I've had these ones for a couple of years now, and I still use these same books in my journals. And then these little clamps right here, I like to use to hold my journal open when I'm working out of it. So I'll just do something like this. Close this. I don't have one of those fancy, like vintage looking, I guess, book things where it holds it open, the little hand, but I'll just do this to hold the pages down so I can work out of it, if that makes sense. And I find these in the tool bench section. That's where I get these clips. I do want to order some really cute vintage looking ones off of Amazon, but that's what I use these for. And then these tags from the Crafter Square section, I think there's like, they come in a pack of 6 or something like that. Tags are one of the things that I love using in junk journals, and I love to embellish them. So here are some of the ones that I embellished to use in my junk journal. They started off like this, and now they look like this. And lastly are all of Dollar Tree's, I guess, pre-made or ready-to-go journals. You could use these not only to tear out the pages again and coffee dye them and incorporate them into your journals, but you could also use them to get started. If you're new to junk journaling and you're feeling kind of intimidated, you don't want to start the whole binding process, you could start off by kind of making like an altered junk journal by just removing some of the pages, maybe removing 4 or 5 pages at a time to remove bulk, and you could do it that way. But Dollar Tree just came out with the cutest little, I guess, mini traveler's notebooks, and this would be a great way to start as well if you're just now getting into journaling and want to use these as well. You would just do the same thing. You could tear out a few pages at a time to remove bulk, and then add whatever journal spreads or things that you want to staple in, glue in to your journal. So this is a great place to start as well if you're just getting into journaling, to just kind of get used to it and play around with it. But you could also, I forgot to mention that you could also use one of these, I guess, inserts in your journal and kind of make a mini journal inside of a journal. I think that would be a really cool idea as well. So that's it for this video. It went faster than I thought it was gonna go, and I have actually a ton of more supplies that I use from Dollar Tree for my junk journals. I might end up doing a part 2 later on, but I figured this would be enough for the first, I guess, the first junk journal supply video that I could do. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or it was helpful for you. I love hearing feedback. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and supporting this channel. Go check out my junk journal playlist if you're new to journaling or you just want some inspiration to go ahead and get started, or to do some different journal spreads. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.